NewsX has learned from its sources that delimitation of Lok Sabha seats is likely to be conducted by 2028 after the completion of the census exercise in 2025. Although there is no clarity on the process that will be followed for delimitation, it has previously happened 4 times, viewers, since 1952 on the basis of the census released and the population figures through which Lok Sabha seats have gone up from 497 in 1952 to 543 in 2024. Article 81 of the Constitution currently states that the House of the People cannot have more than 530 members for states and not more than 20 members representing union territories. The allotment to each state should be a number of seats in such a manner that the ratio between the number and the population is practically the same across the country. The concerns on a delimitation based on population have now been raised by several parties of South India, where the TDP, which is an ally of the BJP, says that Andhra Pradesh should not be punished for its population control measures and should not lose representation. M.K. Stalin, Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, has also said that he is considering to incentivize families with more children. The bottom line is now, with the new parliament, is there a way for further representation which ought to now take place? How will this process be made fair is the big question. Joining me on the broadcast, Bachu Srinivas of the BRS, Jyotsna Tirunagari of the TDP, Professor Madhav Narappa, the editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, and Venkat Narayan, senior journalist, with us on the broadcast. Let me begin this conversation with Jyotsna Tirunagari, if I can, of the TDP. Ms. Tirunagari, if you can explain to our viewers what really are the major apprehensions in the mind of the TDP leaders as far as the delimitation exercise is concerned.
Good evening, Manoj. See, the point is one thing, there is just not one aspect to it. It's just not about delimitation. It's just not about the fertility rate. It's about the overall economic growth and economic growth rate of the state as well. And the aging population, the ratio between aging population of the state and also the declining workforce of the state. All of these are matter of concern. At the same time, as you rightly quoted and mentioned earlier, delimitation ka jo aspect hai, it definitely is a point of concern, because according to what was the foundation for Article 81, which the criteria basically was set for the population being capped at somewhere around 5 lakh, if I'm not wrong, 5 lakh people for constituency and all that. Now,
yes, ma'am. Earlier it was the bottom was 5 lakh and the upper limit was 7 lakh 50,000. Then it was revised. It was revised to 6 lakh 50,000 bottom limit and 8 lakh 50,000 upper limit. Yes.
Yes. But what happened is, later on to that, probably in the late 90s or so, if I'm not wrong, 90s basically, the population control measures were taken up in the entire country, I should say. It's just not about the southern states or just not about Andhra or Telangana or any other state. In that particular point of time, it was United Andhra Pradesh. But the southern states performed really well in terms of population control. Whether you take Kerala, whether you take Tamil Nadu, whether you take United Andhra Pradesh, or whether you take, I think even up to a certain extent, Karnataka, all of us have been very, very pivotal in the concept of population control and the measures that were taken for population control. But now, after so many years, probably when the delimitation concept comes in and when the number of seats increasing and all these things come in, probably we shouldn't be penalized for faring better when a measure was taken across the country. That is one point. And the other point is, as earlier mentioned also, see, the point is, it's just not about the population, just not about the population control or the seats or, for example, the number of MLA seats or MP seats. No, it's also about the declining younger workforce, which actually has a very direct impact on the state economy. Especially with the state of Andhra Pradesh, we, our fertility rate, the rate in the state in terms of fertility rate is, behind, we are below the national average, and also the rate, the growth rate also we are below the national average. So we have a problem for the state.
Okay.
That's the reason our Honorable Chief Minister said probably we should consider having more children, and also, that would actually, going down the lane, it's just not today or tomorrow, going down the lane, probably the aging population ka saath jo challenges hai, we can meet up with the increase in the younger workforce. That's the entire concept. First thing.
Okay.
And also here we should also mention the gender imbalance I'm talking about. There is a lot of gender imbalance that also has surfaced over a period of time. We need to address that as well, which is a very, very, very crucial point.
Yes, Mr. Tirunagari, but like I said, I just want to understand, as far as the delimitation exercise is concerned, an apprehension was raised that because Andhra Pradesh has successfully managed to control or keep its population in check, we should not get the losing end of the stick. If you can just explain that apprehension. Is there a worry that because the seats are fixed at 543, as far as the current constitution is concerned, that the seats are fixed at 543, is there a worry that some seats could be taken away from the southern states and given to the northern states that do have a larger population today?
Taking away, but the point is, when once the delimitation happens and once the number of seats would get increased, if you understand that. So once the number of seats get increased, what happens is, it again, if we follow the earlier phenomenon, the earlier formula, the maximum, the cap, what you said, the population, itna population hai, to itna, that's a particular constituency, let's assume, if I have to take an example. So obviously the states with more population get more number of seats. Simple logic there. So when you have more, let's assume, if you take, if as on date, delimitation or something like that happens, Uttar Pradesh would get more seats when compared to Andhra Pradesh. Probably we would be at a loss of 1 or 2 seats in terms of the delimitation concepts. That's our apprehension. Definitely that is our apprehension. It is just not an apprehension with Andhra Pradesh. We also requested earlier, it's an apprehension with Telangana and also Karnataka and also Tamil Nadu, if I'm not wrong.
Okay,
all these southern states, there is a problem.
Okay, let me bring Bachchu Srinivas into the conversation. Bachchu Srinivas of the BRS, I want to understand from your perspective, what are the apprehensions as far as the delimitation exercise is concerned, which is now, of course, way overdue. We're looking at population, the current figures and the allotments that have been given to the states are on basis figures that are about 6 decades old. So of course, we have to undertake this major exercise of the census next year onwards. But what really is the apprehension as far as the delimitation exercise is concerned for the southern states?
Can something like that be done?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I will do that.
Mr. Bachchu Srinivas, can you hear me?
Yeah, there is a disturbance is coming to me. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, you're audible. Yes.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay.
The Venkatnarayan,
Yes.
please, you kindly mute your phone,
Yes,
please.
yes. We'll mute the rest of the speakers, sir. Don't worry. Yeah, go ahead.
See, the census, actually, as you said, and everybody knows, it is happened 15 times in India, the census, and post-independent it is 7 times. I believe it is 1971, as per the census of 1971, the whatever seats now 543 are increased some 400 to 543. Definitely there is an apprehension from the central government. Today they are going to conduct the census 2025, and as last year former Minister of IT Telangana and BRS working president Mr. K.T. Ramarao has given a statement that we are going to lose around 23 to 24 seats from the southern state, and only Bihar and Uttar Pradesh are going to gain the seats. So the entire in the nation, 18% of the southern population is contributing the 35% of the GDP. If really as per the census, it is going to take place the delimitation again in the same process, certainly the political presentation in the parliament will decrease, and we are going to lose our identity and importance in the Parliament, Lok Sabha especially. And there is a this is going to happen. This is going to fetch to the southern northern state and especially BJP part, because in southern BJP is not there in except Karnataka, in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, even in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, their identity is very less. And this time, if really they are going to do the delimitation as per the census, and especially as per the national rules of control of the population, southern state have perfectly implemented, and now the population has decreased when comparatively northern India. So definitely there is an apprehension to the southern states. So we are going to lose our identity, and even our definitely if this kind of phenomena is going to take place, our president Mr. K.T. Ramarao has
Mr. Bachu, I want to understand. You say you lose your identity. What does that mean? Through a delimitation exercise, how do you lose your identity?
If really constituencies are going to be decreased around 24 or 26 around, the funds allocation, the distribution, even in the central ministry, wherever you take,
right?
If Uttar Pradesh and Bihar like states are going to play the vital role in the cabinet or in the central government, that happens. So ultimately, this is not we against whatever the central government is going to take the 2025 census, and we oppose. We raise our voice from the South India, and especially our leader is going to take an initiation soon that we collectively, irrespective of parties, all the political representation will be given to the central government.
So Mr. Srinivas, what I want to understand from you is that the apprehension stems from two issues. Number one, what you're saying that more seats are likely to be given to Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, perhaps even Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, and the southern states of Andhra, Kerala, Telangana, Tamil Nadu are expected to lose about 20 seats, while the others are expected to gain about 20 to 24 seats. That apprehension is basis calculations that were made on the 2011 census. Is that correct?
Yes.
And secondly, yes, right?
2011.
Basis 2011, and secondly, also on the basis, the assumption here is that the total number of seats will continue to be frozen at 543. Correct?
Okay.
I'm trying to understand from you, sir, that this maths that everyone is doing right now and the apprehensions that they have, and of course rightly so, you're right to put out your apprehensions, but this is basis these two assumptions, right? Basis numbers of 2011 census, and also assuming that the total number of seats in the Lok Sabha will be frozen at 543.
And one more thing I would like to mention, Devika ji, even if the government is going to amend the act, if they increase the seats also, there is a probability, there is a chance to increase the seats. For that sake only, the parliament is designed for the 888 seats. If there is an increase in the seats, if existing it is 129, maybe it is increases of 10 seats or 20 seats. 40 to 50 seats will increase in the northern side. Then ultimately, politically BJP is trying to trying to get benefited with that. Where there is a BJP is having very good BJP is having their identity or whatever where they are getting the seats more. Without by neglecting the southern states, they are going to farm continuously the central government. That is also one point behind the delimitation, the hidden agenda of the BJP party.
Okay, all right. So that really is the major apprehension. I want to bring in Professor Madhav Nalapat into the conversation. Professor Nalapat, more than the southern states simply losing a number of seats within the parliament or them losing their identity, the apprehension of course is that if there are a greater number of seats in an Uttar Pradesh or a Bihar or anywhere in central and northern India, then of course it becomes an advantage for parties such as the BJP and the Congress. But there is also today a need for us to conduct a delimitation exercise to understand what the true figures of the population are, to address the problems that have been raised in the past of how a current member of parliament is serving upwards of 10 lakh voters in their constituencies. How does the BJP or any party for that matter then strike a balance where some of the southern parties don't feel as though this is being done simply for political gains, but realize that this is an activity that has to now be undertaken, because like I said, we're sitting on figures and we're playing with figures that are 6 decades old. It simply does not work anymore.
Devika, I would not like to use political parties, and because frankly, politics in India is very fluid. We have seen, for example, what happened to the BJP in Uttar Pradesh. We have seen, for example, what happened to, in Andhra Pradesh. The TDP did extremely well, whereas the previous election did very, very badly. And as far as the BRS is concerned, they didn't do well at all. The Congress did well. And you remember that post-emergency, when there was an election, the Congress was essentially a southern party. So even today, the southern states are very important to the BJP, to the Congress, to every national party, because the electorate is fluid. The electorate's mind is changeable, and we don't know what the distribution of seats is going to be. West Bengal today is with Trinamool, tomorrow it may be with the BJP. Uttar Pradesh was firmly with the BJP, and today you're seeing a very different picture after the polls, the national polls. So I wouldn't like to bring politics into it, but having said that, I'd like to point out that there is a valid point that states that have got successful family planning records should not be penalized. And the important thing is that, please remember, Devika, huge migration is taking place. If you go, for example, in Kerala, you will find in many of the trains and buses, every train brings in people from the north and from the east. You hear Hindi, you hear Bengali very frequently, much more frequently than before, and vice versa. Of course, South Indians have moved into all the northern states. So I think migration is very important, and from that point of view, I think it's important to ensure that we don't create a situation by which you get penalized for good behavior, and that would be to increase the number of seats certainly, but to increase in proportion to the current ratio of seats held by each state. I think that proportion is important to give a sense of continuity and to give a sense of justice and fair play, and I think that will redound to the benefit of every single party. So look, Devika, today's age of migration, all over the world, United States, Europe, Germany, for example, they are welcoming people from India. And I've gone there, I've seen so many people from Bihar, from UP, from Andhra, from Kerala, in all these places. So I think we should put emphasis on migration in the sense of migration externally to meet the rising demand of many countries for what has been correctly said by the TDP representative, an aging population. Andhra is doing that through migration from within India. Just as so many Andhrites are going out of India. So I think it's important to ensure that the ratios of the number of seats, the proportion of seats, remains more or less steady and not change. Otherwise, you're going to get a situation by which about 3 states, UP, West Bengal, Bihar, to some extent Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, they will dominate politics all over the country. So that is not, and frankly, wherever their mood is, the government will be there. If these 3 or 4 states decide on one particular party, then that party will be in power, even if it's hardly there in the rest of the country. I don't think that's proper. So I would go for increase in seats, very definitely. I'd go for a very strong migration policy, allowing free migration within states, and getting Indian diplomacy to ensure that there is closer and easier access to Indians in Europe and the United States when people are needed. And I would think that would be the best solution. And I would say, again, I repeat, that you increase the number of seats but keep the proportion roughly the same is what I would believe.
Professor Arpad, interesting point there raised by you as far as migration is concerned. Would that then also require some of the southern states to address the issues that have been raised by people who are perhaps moving from northern states to the south for work, and that they probably need to focus on easing out some of those frictions that people feel as far as language wars are concerned? Frankly speaking, none of this can happen if those sort of divisions continue to be perpetuated specifically by the political class.
Look, I'd like to say that if you look at UP, for example, look at Bihar, I don't think that they have instituted any such thing. So in these respects, those two states have done extraordinarily well. I don't think there are any restrictions in states like Gujarat, for example, for a simple reason that, migration is a net plus for all the population. It increases the per capita income, and that per capita income then increases the basket through which everybody in the state benefits. So I think, frankly, that restrictions that are based on, such as, for example, language, these restrictions need to go for a simple reason that when you migrate to a new state, obviously a language is different. So from that point of view, these restrictions certainly need to be removed, and I would encourage that they be removed, because migration is a net plus, not only for individual states, but for the country as a whole. Let's take advantage of our demographic dividend, and let's ensure that people all across the world can get the benefit of that. And secondly, that the curbs on interstate movement of individuals be removed, and India work hard to ensure that curbs on migration from Indians be removed. Great success has been achieved, frankly, in that sphere by this government. In Germany, for example, in the United States, for example, the great success has been achieved, and more needs to be done, Devika. So migration is the key, and I would say that proportionality is important, because otherwise you are, in a sense, penalizing states that did very well in population control, but also states that need more people, and that hence the need for greater migration.
All right, Jyotsna Tirunagiri, I want to bring in your thoughts on this suggestion as well, and keeping in mind the context that I've set, that there continues to be a division between the north and south, which is perpetuated mainly by politicians.
Though I would not like to be, very shrewd there, but that's a fact. That's how much ever we try to avoid, it's a fact that there is some sort of a differentiation, I would say. But again, as rightly quoted by Professor Madhav, the point is that the migration that we are talking about today, if we take in United Andhra Pradesh, if we have taken Hyderabad, or if we take Bangalore, or for that matter up to a certain extent, I cannot probably match Bangalore and Hyderabad with Chennai in that aspect, but up to a certain extent, even Chennai, Pune, all these places, they have been pretty cosmopolitan. They have been, the most sought after cities, I would say. Luckily, even if Andhra Pradesh tomorrow we have Amaravati coming in, the league is there for Amaravati. So obviously, these are the places where you find maximum migration coming in. But again, as rightly pointed out by Professor Madhav, the point is certain norms and conditions need to be a little bit, they need to be sidelined a little bit. I would rather say it's sidelined, not exactly this thing, but they need to be sidelined. And also the major aspect again is the thought process of the politicians. Today, when we see the NDA government at the center, we have a very strong ally. We are a very strong ally in the NDA government up there.
Yes.
And anything and everything that comes to Andhra Pradesh, or for that matter any state, somebody starts talking from the opposition saying that because they are a part of India, they are getting it. No, that's not the case. So you have to see what is the requirement of the state. Let's say, for example, what is the requirement for Telangana? What is the requirement for Andhra Pradesh? What is the requirement for Tamil Nadu? What is the requirement for Karnataka? We have to identify these things as well. And also, everything and anything should not be linked to population. That's what Professor Madhav also very categorically said. Today, yes, the number of seats need to be increased. Yes, probably in that case, we need to do a recensus again, which is always, I think it's in the loop, and also there needs to be probably certain other conditions. I don't know.
Okay. Yes, I want to leave the last word. I'm running out of time. I want to leave the last word. I have 2 minutes left. Mr. Venkat Narayanan also joins us on the broadcast. Mr. Narayanan, how does the government of the day then go about the delimitation exercise in a way that it's fair and balanced, which is the need of the hour for the people of India, but at the same time also addresses some of the apprehensions that have been raised by southern states that, listen, you will take away seats from us, give it to the northern states where you are in power, and therefore you will create an imbalance in the Lok Sabha?
I think the South has a valid reason. They must not be punished for implementing the population policy of India faithfully. And you see, by the time the census gets over and the delimitation takes place, it is expected that the number of seats in the Lok Sabha will go up to 848 from the current 543, which means more than 305 seats will be added to the present Lok Sabha. And I have no idea how many of these seats will go to Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu and all that. It might, their strength might go down. I think they have a valid reason to be worried about this, and it's very, very important that the government of India should consult the chief ministers of the states which are likely to be affected and work out a solution to the problem so that nobody suffers simply for implementing successfully the Indian population policy and control the population. And the spokesperson for TDP and other colleagues have very valid reasons, and I hope the government will do something. And moreover, why should it take 2 years to complete the census? We are a superpower in IT. Why can't we use the latest technology to finish the whole exercise in a matter of few months? I would think that is possible. They should get people like Nanda Nilekani involved to speed up the entire process so that we don't go. It starts in 2025 and goes on till 2026 end. I think it's not right. We must come up with some ideas which will speed up the entire process, and the census is completed in a few months. We already have crossed 145 crore of strength, and it might be by the time the exercise happens, it might even be 148 or something like that. These are my views.
Okay.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.